Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? Welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. My name is TJ Jones. Thanks for checking out the podcast. I really do appreciate it. On this edition, we're going to be talking about wide receiver Rishard Matthews. Now, for those that don't know who Rishard Matthews is, he was a free agent that the New Orleans Saints signed this past offseason. And he was playing pretty well in training camp, man. He was having a really good training camp. He was rising up the charts. He was even making enough noise that he could have easily been considered a part of the Saints wide receiver rotation going into the 2019 season. But now all of that is long gone, because after the Minnesota Vikings game, Rishard Matthews just left. I mean, he left the organization, didn't tell anybody he was leaving. And Coach Sean Payton spoke to the media because the Saints cut him, of course, after he just dipped out. He said, this isn't for everybody. So I was wondering, man, I was like, why would he leave? Like, what happened, man? But there was an article that came out on ESPN.com, and it focused on Rishard Matthews' statement about him leaving and walking away from the National Football League. And he entitled this Instagram post, "No Longer Exist." And I'm going to read this to you, okay? If for those that did not look at it, didn't see Rishard Matthews' post, I'm going to read it for you, okay? And once again, it's entitled, "No Longer Exist." He says, "The game has given me and my family so much, but that no longer exists. Beating your body up over and over for groups of people to give out small percentage of their earnings that they don't even need no longer exists. The endless training and hours away from my family no longer exist. The brainwashing and dividing of cultures for a small piece of jewelry no longer exists. Being around too much ego to even understand that someone has the same skin as you no longer exists. People using me for entertainment and not understanding that I am a black man in America no longer exist. As a receiver, people controlling your success no longer exists. Being around just pure fakeness no longer exists. The crowds cheering no longer exists. The touchdowns, the big catches, fun times no longer exist. All the people that never talk to me but yet hit me up for tickets when they see that I'm close, and they think that I get them for free, and they act crazy when I can't get it for them, no longer exists. I am thankful to have been financially free, but that income no longer exists. It was cool being a professional football player and getting to play a kid's game for work. I will always be a fan of the best sport in the world, but for me, that kid game no longer exists." And that was from wide receiver Rishard Matthews. It seems like he really poured his heart out on his Instagram post. And, I thought about it, man. Like, why would he feel this way, man? Like, what's really going on inside the mind of Rishard Matthews? But the more I think about it, Who Dat Nation, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like this statement and this post that he put out is a cop-out. I'm just being honest. It's just a 100% cop-out, because it was a lot of hypocrisy inside of this post. First off, when he talked about being around so much fakeness. Rishard Matthews has been in the NFL for 8 seasons. For 8 seasons, he says that he's been around fakeness. Me personally, if I'm around a bunch of people that I feel like are being fake or phony, I'm going to leave that environment. I'm not going to stay around for 8 years, okay? I am going to leave immediately. So if he felt that way, he should have just left. That's why I feel like it's a cop-out. And as far as the big touchdowns and the big catches, man, I mean, where they at? I mean, I never even really heard of Rishard Matthews until he played for the Saints. I seen him play before, but big catches? Little bit of a stretch, homie. This is a guy. This is a man who probably just got upset because he was going to a team and he was practicing with guys who had just as much speed as him, just as much talent as him, if not more, and he got intimidated by it. Instead of him going out there and rising to the occasion and competing for a job, he'd rather sit up there and blame it on politics. I'm not buying it, Rishard Matthews, and I feel like you ought to be ashamed of yourself for using that as an excuse. And I feel upset because if you felt this way about playing in the National Football League, If you felt this way, you should have just left, because there's a guy right now who probably could have had your spot, but instead he's on the outside looking in because you want to be indecisive about your decisions. Rishard Matthews, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, man. And you get absolutely no sympathy from me. Usually, you know, I'm real sympathetic when it comes to the football players, man, because you really don't know what these guys be going through personally. But for a guy to just right after the game just take his ball and go home with no reason at all, it's hard for me to get behind a guy like that. And I mean, he also has a track record of doing this. I mean, I've been doing some investigating, man. I went back and I wondered why he left the Tennessee Titans. It was because he got some of his catches, or his targets rather, got taken away because the offense wanted to spread the ball around a little bit more so their offense won't look so conventional, and he got mad at that. And then with the New York Jets, they cut him because he stopped putting forth an effort. It seems like to me this guy has a track record of being a quitter. He is the equivalent of the modern day or this season's Vontae David. No, he didn't quit at halftime, but he might as well should have, because this was just downright disgraceful. And once again, Rishard Matthews, my brother, you get absolutely no sympathy from me. And I'm pretty sure I can speak for a lot of people in the Who Dat Nation. You don't get any sympathy from them. But I would like to hear from you. What do you think about Rishard Matthews walking away from the National Football League? Comment down below, like and share this video. This has been the State of the Saints podcast. Previous episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio.com, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. And also follow yours truly on Instagram. I'm on Instagram now at TJJones_. That's TJAYJONES_. Till next time, all I have to say is, who dat?